Hi, it's Katrina! Number 10. The Curse of the Mummy. The Curse of the Mummy is one of the scariest ancient secrets in the world. It received global attention in 1922 after Egyptologist Howard Carter unveiled the tomb of King Tutankhamun in the Valley of the Kings. Tutankhamun had been buried with his immense treasure for 3,000 years when Howard Carter opened the tomb. The burial chamber was opened on February 16, 1923, and treasure was carted out by the ton. Shortly after, the sponsor of the expedition, Lord Carnarvon, dropped dead. He wasn't the only one either. There were multiple people involved in the excavation that suddenly and mysteriously died. Initial reports claimed it was the curse of the mummy, slowly doing away with those foolish enough to have disturbed the tomb of the great pharaoh. But is there really a curse of the mummy, or was it all just panic? Archaeologist Dominic Montserrat said the idea of a mummy's curse started 100 years before the discovery of King Tut's tomb. He said that in the early 19th century, Egyptian mummies were used in stage shows to entertain people. That was when fiction authors began writing about things like vengeful mummies, which spawned the idea of a mummy's curse. Professor F. de Wolf Miller said the death of Lord Carnarvon was nothing out of the ordinary at all. The conditions of Egypt in the 1920s were atrocious. Some have made the claim that the tomb may have been filled with bacteria that got the excavators sick. However, it was likely much more sanitary inside the tomb than outside. Do you believe in the curse of the mummy? Let me know in the comments. Number 9. Beauty and the Beast. Prepare to have your childhood ruined by hearing the true story that Disney's Beauty and the Beast was based on. The story, which was first released in France around 1740, was called La Belle et la Bête, but it was based on the true story of a man named Petrus Gonsalves and a young woman named Catherine. Petrus was born in 1537 and suffered from a real medical condition called hypertrichosis. It's known commonly as werewolf syndrome. It causes the human body to be covered in excessive hair. There have been at least 50 cases documented in modern times. In years past, people suffering from this disease were often sent to work in freak shows or at cruel circuses. Petrus was given to King Henry II as a gift in 1547. The king was amused at first, but soon realized the human werewolf was a very intelligent man. He had Petrus educated and schooled him in things like etiquette. But then the king died, and his horrible wife, Catherine de' Medici, took ownership of the Wolfman. She wished to conduct an experiment to see what kind of children the man would produce. In 1570, she married Petrus to Catherine Raphaelin, but Catherine was never warned of her soon-to-be husband's appearance. They ended up being married and allegedly had 7 children together, 4 of which were born just as hairy as their father. And that's the secret true story behind Beauty and the Beast. Maybe they had a happy ending after all. Number 8. The Palenque astronaut. Researchers have unearthed the ancient mask of King Pakal of the Maya Empire. It was found in the lost city of Palenque, located in the thick jungles of southern Mexico. King Pakal, also known as Pakal the Great or Kiinich Janab Pakal I, was the ruler of the city-state for 68 years, between 615 and 683 AD. He's most famously known as the astronaut of Palenque because on the slab of his sarcophagus is the image of him flying a spaceship. Pakal's tomb has been a source of controversy for decades. It started in 1968 when fiction writer Eric von Daniken compared the image on the sarcophagus to a man in a spacecraft. Researchers have been puzzling over the strange image ever since. Some believe the Maya ruler was in possession of some secret knowledge that would allow him to travel to the stars. At the very least, he may have assumed that in death, his spirit would join beings from another world as they traveled the cosmos. It's highly unlikely that we'll ever truly understand what King Pakal thought about the afterlife. But we can still learn a lot from recovered artifacts. Archaeologists just found a modeled mask made in Pakal's image, giving us the best glimpse so far at what the ancient ruler really looked like. And now for number 7. But first, it's shout-out time! Big thank you to Kyle Brown and Michael O'Brien for supporting this channel. If you are new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more videos like these. Number 7. The True Cross. The very first archaeologist in history was a woman. Not just any woman, though. Her name is Saint Helena, and she was the mother of the Roman Emperor Constantine. In 326 AD, she was given credit for unearthing fragments of the holy relic called the True Cross. This is supposedly the physical cross that Jesus Christ was crucified on. But after the crucifixion, the cross was destroyed and broken into fragments. The few fragments that have been recovered from the cross are extremely controversial because there is no way of telling if they are real. Most scholars won't even confirm Jesus Christ as a real person who existed. Emperor Constantine was the first major Christian emperor. He changed Rome from being an empire that persecuted Christians to being an empire of Christians. During the religious panic that swept across the Roman Empire, Constantine had his son and wife executed. Shocked and appalled by her son's actions, Empress Helena went on a pilgrimage to atone for his sins. She went searching for holy relics, something that years later would come to be known as archaeology. She visited castles, established new churches, and searched for the true site of the crucifixion. Legend has it, God gave Helena the assistance she needed. He showed her the place where the Romans built a pagan shrine on the ruins of the Second Temple in Jerusalem. Saint Helena had it demolished and found 3 tiny wooden crosses in the rubble. On the site was built the Basilica of the Holy Sepulchre. The fragments of the cross were some of the first Christian relics. They found their way across the Roman Empire, then started multiplying in the Middle Ages. Most historians agree the fragments are nonsense, just like the holy nails and Jesus' crown of thorns. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Number 6. Ancient levitation. What if ancient civilizations could make things levitate? That's a question some experts have been asking. The construction of famous monuments like the pyramids and the ziggurat of Ur would have been much easier if there was some kind of levitation technology. When we look at the legends, most societies claim their greatest structures were built by the gods themselves. Ancient Greek historian Herodotus wrote that the Egyptians received knowledge from the gods to build their pyramids by floating huge blocks. Some historians have interpreted this as floating the blocks down rivers on barges, but others think they could have been levitating the blocks into place through thin air. How would they have possibly pulled this off? That's a question nobody seems able to answer. Legends and old stories mention the power of levitation. However, not even modern science can achieve such a great feat. It brings us back to the theory that ancient civilizations used extraterrestrial technology to build their great monuments. For ancient alien enthusiasts, maybe it wasn't the Egyptians who levitated huge blocks to build the pyramids, but their alien visitors. I don't know, I'm kind of more for the boring floating on barges theory, but hey, let me know what you think. Number 5. Headless skeletons. Archaeologists with Oxford University in the UK recently unearthed a creepy Roman cemetery full of headless skeletons. During the Roman era, this area of Wintringham was dotted with small farms and rapidly growing settlements. They were all linked together by roads, connecting these smaller settlements to the larger town of Duro Vigutum. A total of 17 burials have been identified, with 11 skeletons being decapitated and having their heads positioned by their feet. One of these skeletons was even given a pottery vessel in substitution of their head. The cemetery dates back about 2,500 years to the 3rd century AD. That was the height of the Roman occupation of Britain. But nobody is really sure what's going on with the headless skeletons. Something similar was found at a Roman cemetery in 2022 near Fleet Marston. That time, 40 skeletons were found buried with their heads removed and placed at their feet. There was clearly something very strange happening here, something with maybe heavy religious tones. It looks like there could have been some strange cultic activity prominent in rural Britain. But for now, this ancient secret has researchers stumped. Number 4. Magnetic mysteries at Pumapunku. There are some strange magnetic anomalies happening at the ancient ruins of Pumapunku in Bolivia. The ancient site was built by the Tiwanaku culture around 2,000 years ago. These people created some of the most impressive stone structures still standing on our planet today. The first big mystery is that scientists have never been able to definitively say how the builders cut, shaped, or transported the stones to the site. Many of the gigantic blocks fit together like perfectly sculpted puzzle pieces. Their seams are so immaculate, you can't even fit a piece of paper between them. But there is another part of the mystery that's even more bizarre. Researcher Brian Forrester says the blocks possess magnetic anomalies. When a compass is placed next to one of these stones, it completely freaks out. And when scientists used scientific instruments, they got readings over 20 times what the natural environment should emit in terms of magnetic energy. The magnetism here radiates straight from the cut blocks, which look like they were carved using laser beams. Do you have any theories on how Pumapunku was built? Let me know in the comments. Number 3. The Forbidden City. One thing that's always baffled archaeologists about the Forbidden City in Beijing is how it was built. The ancient people who constructed the Forbidden City did so using massive stones quarried from a site nearly 100 miles away. Construction started around 1406 with the intention of building an enclosed imperial city for the ruling dynasties of China. The massive complex currently consists of 980 buildings and only recently stopped being used for the imperial throne. The Forbidden City was the political center of China until 1924, meaning it lasted longer than the Roman Empire. As you can imagine, it was an incredible feat of engineering. Many of the stone blocks weighed upwards of 360 tons. Archaeologists always figured the builders brought them to the site using giant wheels. However, engineer Jiang Li from the University of Science and Technology Beijing doesn't think that's the case. Jiang recently translated a document from 500 years ago describing exactly how the huge stones were moved. They were dragged across swaths of ice by a small team of men. It took the workers about a month to pull the rocks over the ice, using water as lubrication to make them slide easier. This discovery is amazing because it shows how overzealous archaeologists can completely miss the ingenious ancient building techniques of our distant ancestors. See, it's not always aliens. Number 2. The Nazca Truths. Archaeologists with Yamagata University believe they may have just solved the ancient mystery of the Nazca lines. The lines consist of geoglyphs carved into the soil of the Nazca Desert in Peru over 2,000 years ago. They were first noted by early Spanish conquistadors in the 16th century. Pedro Cieza de León described them as trail markers in 1553, but it wasn't until airplanes in the 20th century that people realized just how huge the Nazca lines really are, and just how extensive the project must have been for ancient people. For decades, these strange desert geoglyphs have been a mystery, and a controversial one at that. The issue is that the lines are so big that you can't tell what shapes they form unless you're in the sky. There are over 358 geoglyphs depicting everything from strange patterns, animals, even alien-like figures, but they were all drawn to gigantic proportions, invisible unless you happen to be hovering over the landscape in a hot air balloon, or maybe a spacecraft. The team of researchers from Yamagata University believe the lines were used as a form of communication. Researchers say the figures were pathways leading from one village to the next. They say the animals were drawn alongside the pathways to mark the routes moving between settlements. However, that still doesn't explain how the ancient Nazca made them, or how they could tell the difference from the ground. Number 1. Bosnia's Pyramid of the Sun. There is a pyramid supposedly hiding in the Balkans, overgrown with trees and shrubs. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing but a large grassy hill overlooking the town of Visoko in Bosnia and Herzegovina. But to some self-proclaimed archaeologists, the grassy hill is a giant pyramid. In 2005, businessman Sam Osmanagic made claims that the hill constitutes the largest ancient pyramid on the planet. He says it was likely built by the Illyrians, who dominated this part of Europe between 12,000 and 500 BC. The pyramid itself dates back about 8,000 years and was part of a much larger complex. The remains of all these buildings are now overgrown and look like completely ordinary hills. In one of the most outrageous cases of pseudo-archaeology ever, the hills have become a major tourist attraction. Local authorities have funded excavations which have yielded no results. School children are being taken to the hills and taught that they are part of Bosnian heritage. The place has become a massive tourist destination despite the fact there is no archaeological evidence alluding to the existence of pyramids. As far as mainstream archaeologists are concerned, the hills are made of nothing but soil and grass. Thanks for watching! Do you really think there were levitating pyramids in the ancient past? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye!